today we are going to go over the success formula. In Abe's welcome or opening, the begin with end in mind, he touched on the 5 Ps. So we're going to be going into details on that today, or right now in this section. The first P is preparation, and that's where you're getting started. Then you've got promotion, proposal, performance, and of course you do all that well, it equals profit. So we're going to talk about the preparation phase. Now here you've got to know what the government expects of you, and I think Abe touched on this when he was talking about, you know, what the government expects, what you can expect and all that. So the government expects that you're registered in SAM and that you're capable, that when you put that you are in SAM and you sell a widget, that you know how to sell widgets, you know how to get the widgets so they can buy the widget from you and all that stuff. They expect that you're going to be professional, easy to work with, have your marketing materials and everything you need in place. And they also expect you to be knowledgeable about what they need. Now in the step 2 strategic planning stage, this is where you're going to have to come up with a strategy. And Abe touched on this. All of this, you know, as if the 2 days of this goes on, we're starting kind of high level and easy and then drilling down deeper and deeper and deeper. So as we get later into the day, Abe's going to be touching really deep into how you come up with the short-term strategy for subcontracting so you can get the immediate cash, and then how you develop a longer-term strategy so you can go out and plant the apple trees and let them grow so 5 years from now you've got something going on as well. So of course, don't recreate the wheel. There are ways that you can find another company in your line of business and just model your business after them. I mean, all of this with government contracting, there are people that do it well. So all you have to do to be successful is literally mimic what they do. So this isn't about you, you know, being new and different and finding something, a new way to what is it? Build the, isn't there saying? No, well, reinvent the wheel. Yeah, that's one of them. Build a better mousetrap. That's it. I was like, there's something that you're building. We don't have to trap mice anymore, thankfully. Well, at least we don't here in Georgia. But so find another company that's doing what you're doing, and then figure out how to do it well and mimic that. And of course, Uncle Sam wants you to take his money. So the step 3 is educate yourself. And Abe was talking briefly about the governese. So this is, you know, you need to start learning Governese. That's supposed to be Chinese or Mandarin for, do you speak Governese? But I don't know. I just asked Google, and hopefully they know. So you want to start learning Governese and just learning this whole language of government contracting. And you want to take classes not just from us. I mean, we have a plethora of resources here and a lot of knowledge. You know, Abe, me, Renzi, we're all, Mario with his experience in marketing, we're all subject matter experts at what we do. But, and Abe is fond of saying it, you don't want to learn to speak Governese just from us, because then you're only going to speak broken English. You know, so you need to learn from a lot of different places so you can get a well-rounded education. So go to the SBA, go to the PTAC score, and all those other resources so that you can educate yourself. And then, of course, you want to get registered and you want to get your business certified. Now, there are all kinds of different registration systems. How many of you have your Dun & Bradstreet number? Okay, good, good. So I thought y'all had a D&B. No. Okay. So Earth First, I'm sure y'all have a D&B, right? Okay, yeah. So you know, you have to have your Dun & Bradstreet number. That's the foundation of your business and getting started, at least in the government space, because you need all that to get registered in SAM. You've got to get your business registered in System for Award Management. You've got to go to the general login system if you want to do any kind of certifications, so that you can open up the SBA the 8A portal and your hub zones and all those different certifications. The Dynamic Small Business Search is kind of the directory, the yellow pages, if you will, where all the businesses that are registered in SAM, those 600,000 businesses, where they're all listed and all their information. And of course, you want to learn about other systems like USA Spending or FPDS, where you can find data about contracts that have been awarded, see those companies, find those companies that are being successful in the space so that you can mimic them and figure out okay, if they're doing what I do, and they're winning contracts, what kind of certifications do they have? How long have they been in business? How many employees? Just so that you can position yourself. And maybe you won't be able to hire all the people that you need and do all that today, but you know how to grow and how to build yourself so that you can be successful as well. Okay, so getting registered and certified, there are a plethora of certifications. And I think I alluded to that in the beginning, but that's where my expertise comes in. I am the one here with the organization that does all of the certifications for our members. So whether it's 8A, veteran, service disabled veteran, HUBZone, woman-owned, minority-owned, the commercial certifications that you may want for your business as far as minority business enterprise or women business enterprise, the LGBTBE business enterprise certifications. I do all the certifications for the members. So I'm a little busy in addition to member services. But, all of these have different rules and regulations. I think, Chris, you mentioned that you love the FAR and you read the FAR. Well, all of these, all the federal ones at least, are governed by codes in the Code of Federal Regulations. So that's the Bible that I read, and it's awesome. It has everything you need to know. There's no black and white. There's no gray. It's all black and white in there. So the great thing about understanding the code is that anytime I'm dealing with the SBA or with the VA for certifications for my clients, and they come back saying that, oh, this is wrong, or you may not be eligible due to this, well, there's no gray. I can go to the code, and I'm like, well, according to, CFR section 13-2.08, and refute any argument based on what's black and white and what's in writing. So that's important to be able to understand the tools so that you can use those same tools and leverage yourself and move your business forward. On the commercial side of the house, there are certifications like the MBE, the WBE, LGBTBE. That's all for corporate clients because, as you know, most of the Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies have their own supplier diversity programs in place. And that's where you can position your business to get some of that easy money or the short-term cash flow going and position yourselves for contracts with those markets. Now, because that's the commercial sector, they don't speak the language that the government does. So if you go there and say, well, I have an 8A, depending on who you're talking to, they're like, what's an 8A? I don't understand those words. You're speaking Chinese to the person that only speaks English. So you need to make sure that you tailor the conversation for the audience. So registering your business with the commercial certifications can, like I said, help you position yourself for those contracts. And not only do I do that, but I've also helped a company, and I don't even know where they're based. That's pathetic. It's somewhere Boston area. I know them. They're a federal contractor in the education space, and they reached out to me because they were looking to stand up a supplier diversity program of their own. So now I'm their go-to expert for all of the consultants that they work with, that they're trying to help get the MBE and WBE certification, because they've got this contract with the Department of Education, and they have a requirement that so much of that business has to be performed by minority contractors. So, I helped them to stand up that program and working with about 3 or 4 of their consultants to get them the certification. So there's a lot of ways that you can position all this. And of course, if your business is one that does business in the local market, then you want to look at certifications like your City of Atlanta's, DeKalb County. If your business is, across the U.S., whatever county that you're doing business with may have its own certification and may want you to look at doing that in order to conduct business with them. So you just need to figure out who your audience is and get the certification that's going to speak to that audience. Okay? Any questions so far?
I have one question. What's the DOT certification? Is that considered a state certification?
Well, here it depends. And of course, all of the answers to all the questions are it depends, and then we have to look in the code. But here in the state of Georgia, the Department of Transportation, of course, is a federal department, but the Department of Transportation across the U.S. has a disadvantaged business enterprise certification. Here in the state of Georgia, the DBE cert through the Department of Transportation is the only one that the state recognizes. So they don't recognize MBEs or WBEs or 8As or any of the others. They only recognize that DOT cert. But in other states, that may not be the case. The state may have its own, like, statewide uniform commercial certification. So it just depends on what state you're doing business in as to whether or not the DOT is the standard for that particular state, or if there's some other standard. But here in the state of Georgia, yes.
It stands for Department of Transportation.
Department of Transportation. And though it's a federal agency, it's not necessarily listed as a federal certification, as you'll see, because it's kind of state specific. The good thing, though, is that it is uniform. So there's one application that anybody, whether they're in Connecticut, or Colorado, like one of the clients I was working with, or here in Georgia, the same application applies. Of course, they're all different systems. So in Colorado, it's all electronic. Here in Georgia, it's all paper. So it just depends on how that all works. I had something I was going to say, lost my train of thought, but oh well. Any other questions about certifications before we move on? And you'll have a lot more. I think it is today. It's part 2 of today. I'll be going into so much more detail about this. You will, yes. Your eyes will be bleeding when it's all done. So the promotion phase is where we're going to move next. So now you've educated yourself, you know a little bit of governese, enough to be dangerous. But the good thing is that you don't, it's like traveling to another country. If you've got a book, a translation book, you can get around. And if you got to go to the bathroom, you can look through the book. It's like, how do I get to the bathroom? Baño, por favor. So you know that the code is your guide, so you can use that anytime you need to. But as long as you've got enough to get started, don't make the fatal mistake. So many of us, especially as entrepreneurs, we can self-sabotage. It's like, well, I'll wait until I learn governese. I'll wait until I get all my certifications. So now it's like the person that goes out and they keep going to school, getting all these degrees before they get a job, and they're 35 and have never worked anywhere. They've got all these credentials behind their name and no real experience. So, don't wait until you can do this as you're going. You can build I'd like to use the analogy, build the plane as you're flying, but, it's not quite that dangerous. Yeah. So step 5 is creating your image. And I love this picture. So see the little kitty cat looking in the mirror singing a line.
Oh, yeah.
So just because you are a small business, just because you may be a mom and pop, doesn't mean you want to present yourself that way to the government, because the government is risk averse. Now, of course, you don't want to, you're not misrepresenting yourself, because, of course, I'm not trying to go to jail for you or anybody, and I don't expect you to want to do that either. That's not our goal, to be in a 5x10. But just because you are small doesn't mean that you have to appear that way. So do what you can to make your business, to position your business to look like you want to be. I mean, you are the subject matter expert. So position everything around you so that they don't see the what does Abe say? The hot daddy at Gmail address. So do all the stuff to position yourself as a professional company, because you are the expert and you understand what you do, but you want the government to see that and not all the other stuff that makes you appear risky. Okay? And then, of course, marketing your business, you've got to get out there. That's the only way to market in this environment. I mean, you have to go to networking events and industry days and all those different things so that people will know who you are and know what your business is. And you've got to have all the marketing materials that are required to do that. Okay? So matchmaking sessions are a really good way to educate yourself about what different agencies are looking for, and to get your capability statement and all of your materials into the hands of those SBLOs, that's Small Business Liaison Officers, or the OSDBUs, the Office of the Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization. I have to close my eyes and think of what all the letters mean. So to position your materials in front of those people so that when needs arise, they know that they can turn to you and count on your company to perform those. Okay, and you have to build relationships. And the important part of building relationships is it's not just about building relationships with the agencies, because it's great to know GSA reps and to go out and building a relationship with that, or to try to get with somebody at the CDC or Department of Health and Human Services or Education or wherever you may want to position yourself. But you also want to be strategic about what you're doing. Because again, we have the short-term goal where you want cash today, and then you have the longer-term goal where you want to be a prime and get that multi-million-dollar contract for 5 or 7 years. But the cash today is probably going to be easier obtained by subcontracting for a large prime like a Lockheed Martin or Northrop Grumman or somebody that's already in the contracting space, or whatever company in your particular industry. But it also can be obtained by partnering with another small business that maybe has an 8A or an SDVOSB or some kind of certification, and they're already leveraging it to win contracts. But they, of course, are a student of us, so they understand that he who owns the contract controls the money. That doesn't mean they're the technical expert in all of it. So they have won the contract, but they need technical experts like you to perform the work. So that's why it's important to partner with other small businesses that may have certifications. Another great way to do that is if you are not a minority business, if you're a majority owned firm, meaning you're not an ethnic minority, then you can position yourself with a company that has these certifications and go after opportunities that you wouldn't have the ability to win yourself. So, just because you're not a service-disabled vet doesn't mean you can't partner with one and perform on a contract that's been set aside for an SDVOSB and 8A and otherwise. Like I said, the industry events, matchmaking sessions, just everything with contracting is about building relationships. And I don't know if it's right at lunch or during lunch or before lunch, but we have somebody here from GSA that's kind of going to be talking about how he works with small businesses. So that's going to be really exciting. Okay, so this is going through all the relationships that you're going to need. Okay? So first, in the middle, there's GCA. Okay? And you're here in the center in the big yellow part. That's your business. So you can go ahead and feel free to write on this. I just know I can show you the information, but generally you learn better if you're actually applying it. So these are all the relationships by the time we finish building this out that you're going to need in the federal space if you're hoping to build a contracting business. Okay, so your business, you need to know large companies. So you need to know those Lockheed Martins, the Northrop Grummans, and think about what your business is and what companies perform in the space where you are. So in your case, maybe it's because I know you do counseling and that sort of thing. I can't think of a large company, maybe healthcare, like Kaiser's or, the Blue Crosses, Blue Shields, those types of companies. In your business, Earth First, in construction service, yeah.
Would that be, because I know that's one they're trying to pursue.
Well, the Fort McPherson, that's more going to be government. So think about the large companies. So the HHRM joint venture, Herman Russell, and the Moody, and so think about those large, those large construction companies. So those are the kinds of companies that you want to associate yourselves with as far as large businesses. Okay, and of course that's for the mentor-protege, because eventually you want to go to these people and find out if they're willing to mentor your company. And of course, you'll have to be a little further along before you can present that option to them. So it's a win-win for both, because you'd have to have something that they can get from you. If you're just a small business starting out today and go to the largest, commercial company you can find, it's like, can you be my mentor? They're like, yeah, that sounds great, but what's in it for me? You got to think that through. But if you're an 8A firm and you've been successful winning contracts, that large company is all about that, because they're a large company. They can't qualify for 8A contracts. So there's a win-win if you position it right. Okay, you also need relationships with small businesses. So yes, you are a small business yourself, but like I said, maybe you are an SDVOSB firm. And again, that small SDVOSB, Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Small Business. Gosh, I'm getting my acronyms messed up. So if you're a veteran, but you're not a woman, and you want to go after these women-owned business opportunities or these economically disadvantaged women-owned business opportunities, then find a small business that, kind of marries what you do in the way of capabilities. Just like, I found Abe and our services marry well together. So it just makes sense for us to work together to try to do more and serve more people. So you're going to find small businesses that have different certifications that can help you to grow your business. You also need relationships with the government, federal, state, local, whatever those agencies. So that's where the Fort McPherson would come in. Okay, so this is with the agency. So, of course, they're the 15 executive branches of the government, and it all trickles down to like 85,000 different agencies. You can't possibly do business with the entire government. So this is where you really have to be strategic, do your homework, figure out who you are, who your best client is, and find one or two. Because, this is like not just eating an elephant. This is like trying to eat a whole herd of elephants if you go after it wrong and try to go after them all. So you really have to be strategic about about how you do things, so that when you're positioning yourself for the government, that you're doing the right things and that you're finding the agencies that are going to best position you for success. So whether that's the Department of Defense, the CDC, the Department of Education, Health and Human Services, whatever that agency is, you want to make sure you find that one or two and then go after them. Now, not only do you need that, but you need to know the buyers. Because just because you know somebody at the Department of Defense or the Department of Education doesn't necessarily mean that's, anyway, somebody's going to have to keep time for me because I never started my timer. Okay, yeah, just wanted to give you that aside. So just because you have a relationship with the Department of Energy or the Department of Education doesn't mean that person is authorized to bind the government in a contract. Okay, so by knowing the buyers, these are going to be the COs, and of course they oftentimes use the term KO as well. The COTARs, the contracting officer, technical representative, the purchasing contracting officer. So they use all these people. They've gone to class, they've taken courses, and they've become certified to bind the government in a contract. And depending on their level of certification, they may be able to bind the government to only a few $100,000 or upwards of tens, 20, $50 million. So those are the people that you have to really get the relationship with, because they're the ones that are stroking the check. And they're the ones that are like, okay, if I give you this contract and you don't perform, then it's my job on the line. It's my certification on the line. So, you have to know both of those parties to be successful. Oh, did you see my red dot? Oh, it doesn't work on the, oh, that's interesting. Sorry. Works on the wall, but not on the screen. And then once you put all that together, then you've got your, the small business advocates. I forgot about one more. These are going to be the people at those agencies that are in business to help you. So their whole job at the DoD is to find qualified small businesses with whom they can do business with. Their whole job at whatever agency it is to find you and to position you for contracts. So you really need relationships with those people. In some agencies, those reps are really good, and others are not so good, but that's just life, right? The other thing is that there are going to be, I guess it's listed in there too, the small business liaison officers. Those are the folks that are going to be at Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin and Moody and Herman Russell that are in business with those companies that are doing federal work that are tasked as well with finding you. So it could very well be the supplier diversity officer. If they're in the government space, it's probably a small business liaison officer. And finally, when you put all that together, you end up with the government contracting department. So this is the team that Abe was talking about that, by the time you finish that up, you've got proposal writers on your team like Danielle, you've got cost estimators, you've got relationship managers and all those people. Now, of course, this might cost you upwards of $1 million to create this team, So until you've got those pockets, then that's where we come in, where you can come to us and use the resources that we provide, the technical experts that we have in proposal writing, use my expertise and certifications to help you with that. So all those different things. Okay? So we've got the proposal phase next. And this is where you go sourcing opportunities. So FBO is Fed Biz Ops. That's probably one everyone here is familiar with. The good news about FBO is that, of course, anything in the federal government, all this has to be public information. So that's why FBO exists. So all the procurement opportunities that exist are made public and available to you. The bad thing is that if it's on FBO, they probably already know where the award's going. And it's, you know, if you have been notified of it, it's probably not you, right? So that's it's kind of a double-edged sword. Now, of course, you could use FBO strategically, and that's what Abe will be talking about, where you can use it to find those sources sought, where they're just doing the market research. So then that way you get the heads up that this opportunity is coming. You can start building the relationships if you haven't already. And if you do already have the relationship, it's like, you know, I noticed that you've got a sources sought for this event. You know, can I remind you that this is what I do? So we'd love to help you out with that. Different agency websites, whether it's Department of Energy, Education, wherever you fit, go to their websites and find out what they have coming up in the forecast so that you can see in 2017 what they're about to do. Because, you know, what's happening the end of this year, they probably already know where that's going, or they have a good idea, have narrowed it down to a few people, but you can start doing your forecasting for 2017 and later. And keep in mind that the government fiscal year is from October 1 through September 30. So, you know, the new fiscal year is coming up. So you want to start making plans for the 2017 fiscal year. You also want to do visits with the agencies and meet with the people. Like at CDC, Gwen Miles is one of the what is her role there? She's OSTBU and Small Business Officer, maybe an SBLO. I can't remember what her role, but she's the small business advocate. Oh, that's what she is. That's it, yes. She's the small business advocate there at the CDC. So, you know, make your visits, make your rounds with those people so that they can get to know who you are as a person and understand that, okay, yeah, I understand they've got the technical expertise, but, you know, I really like them as a person. I think they've got their stuff together. I'd love to be able to give them their first opportunity. Okay? And again, writing proposals. Keep in mind, you can't win if you don't play, just like with the Georgia Lottery. So at some point, you've got to just do it. I mean, maybe you don't feel like you're all the way ready, or maybe you won't win the proposal, but you certainly won't win if you don't put a proposal in. So at some point, you've got to do your first one. So if you don't know how to do it, I mean, you know, this is one of those things where it is hard, it's difficult. You probably want to find a guide. You know, we've got Renzi here in-house as our subject matter expert, or, you know, Danielle is an outsourced person, but you definitely want to use somebody to kind of guide you through your first one. But it's just like anything. I mean, they in the proposal, they'll tell you what they want. So if you are pretty anal retentive and detail oriented, that's me. You remember I do certifications. So you can get through it if you want to do it yourself. Now, of course, you've got to keep in mind the opportunity costs. You can do it yourself. Maybe it'll take you 60, 80 hours, and that's 60, 80 hours of time where you're not making revenue and doing what you do in your business. So you've got to weigh the cost of that. So keep in mind that whether you're outsourcing it and paying somebody else to do it, or you're doing it yourself, there's a fee involved, right? So it's either your time or the money that you're going to spend to have an expert. And Abe has a statistic too about what you can expect, like how many proposals you have to write before you win one. And of course, it's much less if you have us as a guide and help position your business for success. But you want to review the bid package for any missing pages or sections. Anytime you do a proposal, there's going to be an opportunity for you to ask questions or send questions in to whomever that contact person is. You want to, of course, make sure you're only communicating with that contact person, because otherwise it could be construed that you're, what is the word they use? that you're trying to collude and find an opportunity to get in that's illegal. So you want to make sure you stay within the parameters and only talk to, even if Sally is your best friend at the agency, but she's not the contracting officer for that proposal, you only need to talk to your contracting officer. You can't talk to Sally because you want to just make sure you keep everything clean. Yes, yes. You can get Sally in trouble and again, back to that whole 5 by 10. That's not our goal. Trying to make dollars, not time. You want to understand all the requirements of the bid package and make sure that everything is in there. And the other thing, and I think Abe mentioned this earlier, that, these contracting officers that are putting the proposals out, they aren't the technical experts. You are. So maybe they're putting out something for whether it's a building or some kind of construction, and you're in the industry, so maybe there's new technology that has changed or a new regulation that's come about. But if they're using specs that are 5 years old that don't accommodate those new regulations, that's where your expertise can come in that proposal phase to ask the smart questions like, you say you want this thing with a particular spec, but the newest regulation is this thing. So, I'd recommend that we go with this newer regulation that's going to, be more cost effective. Now, keep in mind that anytime you ask questions in that open forum, or if you're asking questions of that particular contracting person, that anything you ask has to be made public so that everyone that's looking at the bid is going to get the same information, because there's not going to be any one advantage to you. So, if you're pinning that, I recommend that we go with this particular model, then everyone's gonna have that information. Now, of course, you could maybe ask the general question that you don't mind everyone knowing the answer to, and when you submit the proposal, you're submitting all of the extra secret sauce stuff that you didn't ask publicly to make yourself stand out above the competition. Okay, you want to set up a kickoff meeting with your team because these proposals, and I'm laughing because we've done a few here, and it's we're still working on perfecting the process. So it's a matter of timing it out, just like any kind of project. When you do any kind of project management, you want to make sure you have your milestones and all that kind of stuff, so you're not literally at the 11th hour, midnight before the day the proposal is due at 8 a.m., trying to still put things together. So you want to set up a kickoff meeting, have your milestones, prepare your staff, and the staffing strategies that you're going to need. So you know who inside the company is going to do what. You're going to know what additional people you may need to hire, maybe have those people identified or have a plan in place to get those people and hire them on. And then, of course, gather what you need in the way of past performance. So, and is either Abe or me or somebody's going to be talking about past performance. You want to keep in mind that when we talk about past performance, each of us here are individuals. Yes, we own our businesses, and maybe our business hasn't done a particular task, but if you, in your 20 years of experience doing what you've done, have done some of that work, then that company can claim that experience as past performance. So, you want to gather all that information in the way of resumes for the individuals, your capability statement for the company, and all that. And performing, this is where you shine. And y'all will learn a little about me. I'm a Star Trek fan. This is where you engage. So I love Jean-Luc Picard, sorry. So this is where you step in and shine. This is where you do what it is that you do best. And you always want to make sure that you're giving your best to the agency and that you're setting yourself up for success and for them to come back and ask you for more and for them to come back and want to work with you again. That you're, I don't want to say over-delivering, because you don't necessarily want to do beyond the scope of work, especially when you're dealing with the federal government, but you want to make sure that you're delivering your best level of quality. And maybe it's that you do it ahead of schedule instead of, right on time. If you can finish a day or two early, then, staying on budget and ahead of time. Okay, so to continue with this, the contract management team, can make or break your project success. So you want to make sure that you've got your best technical experts that are on point. And remember that the agency is likely going to judge your performance and whether or not you delivered it on time and on budget. And also, depending on your company, maybe you're not the one in the field doing it. You've got somebody that you've hired that's the one that's out there interfacing with the client. So that person represents you. So you want to make sure that the impression that they get of your company is one that is what you want to deliver. So make sure those people are doing, representing you best. You want to get your project team together, start mapping out the project plan, set different milestones, and create a schedule for the timely completion of the projects. And I thought I had a timer here, but I forgot to set it, so don't know where I am. Okay, compliance is number 11. This is where the FAR comes in. So you've got to read the FAR, which is going to be that Federal Acquisition Regulation, to know all the regs that are specific to your project. That's the other great thing, because I think Abe said this is like 6,000 pages. It's not like where you have to read it cover to cover. I mean, yeah, I don't know who would do that. It just, yeah. So the sections and the, this is the government, so they kind of make it simple. They use the KISS method often. I mean, not really effectively, but they keep it simple, sweetie. So, they'll tell you this particular thing has 25 different FAR regs, and they tell you what the actual code is. So you can, even if you don't know how to find the FAR, you can literally go into Google, put FAR, and whatever the number is, and it's going to come right up to that with a ton of different resources. So make sure the ones particular to your project that you know like the back of your hand. You want to report to and communicate with your contracting officer and the program manager, whomever's on site that they've deemed to be the person in charge, on a regular and consistent basis. Another thing too is you want to know who does what, because everyone has a role, and this is government, so there's probably a lot of duplication of that, right? So you want to know that the person that's the program manager may say, oh, I don't know why they did it that way in the proposal. We really want this. And your person or you want to look good, so you do it that way instead of what's written in the proposal. Well, if the contracting officer, the one that is writing the check, didn't authorize that, then you're outside of the scope of work. So you just know who everyone's role is, and make sure that you're sticking to how things are supposed to be. You want to engage a qualified CPA firm, because we've talked and we've touched on DCAA, that's Defense Contract Acquisition Audit Regulations. So you want to know those regulations and guides, and of course you can't know that, but have a qualified firm that understands all that, because if you are ever called to question and they want to do a DCAA audit on you, you want to make sure you've got somebody that understands what that is and knows that your systems are compliant. Legal counsel is so very important. So you want to make sure that you have somebody that understands contracting, so that you've got that in place. Because the unfortunate thing is you are a small business dealing with the largest client in the world. So their pockets are deeper than yours could ever be. I mean, just period. So you need to have that legal counsel that's there to protect you and understands that whole thing, so that you can make sure that you're going to stay in compliance. And if they say that they want to do something and it's outside of the scope or the terms, have that person that has your back that can read through the FAR, and maybe you can interpret it, but you need somebody that's a heavier hitter than you to fight on your behalf for that. Okay, create an ethics program for your company. Just make sure that you stay totally, you don't want any shades of gray when it comes to being in compliance with how you do things. So you want to make sure you stay in compliance with all that, create the ethics program for your company, and have all of that in place. And then closing out the project. Your ultimate goal is to make sure that the agency is satisfied with the work that you're doing, and that they're happy with your performance, and that so if they have another project, they want you back again. So, you want to make sure you do a final walkthrough and get signed off on everything, so that you can get final payment. because Abe touched on it before, how the government does pay on time every time, if you know what you're doing, if you invoice properly, if you do all these things. So make sure you get all the final checks done so that you can receive full payment. Final billing, we talked about that, and you don't want to get blacklisted. That's the last thing you want. There really is a blacklist. It's the EPLS, the Excluded Party Listing System. So you will be listed on that system, and that's one of the things, anytime you're going to be awarded a contract, they're going to go check your SAM, make sure it's current. They're going to check EPLS to see if you're on there, and then if all's good, then they can go forward. So you don't want to do anything to get yourself on that.
Now, how do you get on the extension?
How do you get on the EPLS? By doing something wrong, or not performing within the scope, not conforming to the FAR regs of a project. I mean, it could be a number of reasons. So yeah, just do what you're supposed to do. What is it? Keep your head down and your nose clean? Of course, you don't keep your head down anymore. You keep your head up and your nose clean. It's probably a better thing anyway, because then people can see. Anyway. Okay, so back in the handout section, there is the 12 steps. So the little Goddess of Government Contracting. It's a one-pager, but it is front and back. So go ahead and pull that off, and we're going to do a quick check of the 12 steps and see how much we've retained here. I was saying, let's make it interesting. Close your books. I know, that's okay. You don't have to close your books today. Yes. We've got a volunteer. We've got a volunteer. Yes. A is for
Assessment.
and wait. And we get Asarum Rop CC is the Goddess of Government Contracting. She's our rep star. So yeah, you can remember. And what is S?
Strategy.
Yes. There we go. E.
Education.
All righty. See, y'all got this. R.
Registration.
There we go. I.
Image.
See, y'all can close your books. Okay, M.
Marketing.
There we go. Chris is on a roll. Asarum Rop. What's the next R? So what's sorry. I went to, yes. Okay, so who's the O? What's the O?
Opportunity.
There we go. P. First P. The first P is which one? You said, yes, proposal. Next P. Star Trek. Engage. There we go. See, but you remembered it, right? And the last two C's. There we go. See, y'all have this. Okay. So what questions? And I think I'm early. And I've forgotten to start the timer, so, according to me, I still have 70 minutes left. No questions? Yes?